Hello parents, my name is Stacie Moseley and I am the Elementary Curriculum Supervisor of Math and ELA. It is a pleasure to be able to reach out to all of you in order to share some of the exciting changes that have occurred in math and English language arts over the past few years. To begin, I'm sure it does not come as a surprise when I mention that Pennsylvania has adopted a new set of standards for both math and ELA. Those standards are now called the PA Core Standards. The good news is that the old PA Legacy Standards were closely aligned to the new PA Core Standards. However, we did see slight shifts in both ELA and math. For instance, in ELA, students are now reading more informational text than in years past. The PA Core and our curriculum actually balance the amount of literary and nonfiction text equally. Furthermore, students are being asked to closely read and analyze complex texts at a much deeper level to include not only defining what the text means, but to go further and look at the craft and structure that the author uses and how it affects our reading. Additionally, in writing, instructional emphasis is being placed on the different modes of writing and writing traits specific to each mode, so that students are able to use evidence to inform or make an argument in their writing. In math, there is greater focus on fewer topics. Rather than racing to cover many topics in a mile-wide, inch-deep curriculum, the new standards focus deeply on building conceptual understanding, procedural skills, and problem solving for the following. Grades K through 2 focus on building concept skills and problem solving related to addition and subtraction. Grades 3 through 5 focus on building concept skills and problem solving related to multiplication and division of whole numbers and fractions, while grade 6 focuses on ratios and proportional relationships and early algebraic expressions and equations. The following videos, one for ELA and one for math, will provide an overview of PA Core Standards, our North Penn curriculum, research-based instructional practices employed in our classrooms, and finally, we'll share resources for both you and your child. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about our elementary ELA and math curriculum.
Thank you, families, for taking the time to view this ELA presentation on curriculum and instruction. And my name is Stacie Moseley, and I am the Curriculum Supervisor for elementary ELA and math. The goals for this portion of our video are to allow you to become familiar with our English and language arts, standards-based curriculum, and our research-based instructional practices that are employed in the classrooms. At the end, we will also be previewing some supports that would help you at home that the students have access to. Our curriculum directly relates to the PA Core Standards. The PA Core Standards define what the student should know and be able to do by the end of the year. All of our curriculum, instruction, and assessments are fully aligned to the PA Core Standards. When we talk about the old legacy standards and the new PA Core Standards, I think it's important for you to know that they were already very closely aligned. I think it was like 90-some% aligned. But there were a few shifts between the old legacy standards and the new PA Core Standards. And I'd like to take some time just to talk about those shifts so you can see what would be changing between 2 years back and this year. So the first shift involves balancing informational and literary texts, where in previous years there was a heavy emphasis in elementary on literary texts. Now it's about an equal balance, 50-50 balance. So there's an increase in reading informational text. Also, there's a focus on the complexity of the text, ensuring that the texts that students read are complex enough that they can analyze those texts a little bit more. We also are increasing writing with the new PA Core Standard, and especially in writing from sources and making sure that students are using evidence to inform or make arguments. Students also will have rich and rigorous conversations dependent on the text now. So we're fostering more of collaborative conversations and really having them digging into analyzing and interpreting text. We're also the shifts focus a little bit more on academic vocabulary and stressing that students constantly build the vocabulary they need to be able to access grade level complex texts. And then finally, ensuring literacy is taught across all content areas, not just in the English language arts blocks, but we're bringing it into, there is math literacy and how to interpret word problems and such, and then also into social studies and science, developing that literacy instruction and those literacy practices across all content areas. So again, there hasn't been too much change, but there's an emphasis on those pieces. When you take a look at the PA core standards, they're broken up into 5 categories: building foundational skills, reading informational text, reading literature, writing, and speaking and listening. And within those standard categories, we have learning progressions within each STEM too. So this gives you a little bit of an overview of what is included in all of the standards. I just want to give you a peek into what the actual PA core standards look like. This is a sample from foundational skills, and our progressions are along here that we would expect students to be able to do, have book handling skills and print concepts. And then you go into the actual standards document, and these show the actual standards along with the key competencies that we want students to be able to do. So if we look at kindergarten, book handling is one of the progressions. We want to make sure that students are able to utilize book handling skills. And with print concepts, you can see some of the competencies that we would expect would be to have them following the words from left to right, going from the top of the page to the bottom of the page, and so forth. So this is what the standards look like for us, and they're broken down again into those foundational skills: reading informational text, reading literature, writing, and speaking and listening. And this is a sample of K5, and then there's another document for 6 and beyond. And as you can see, the standards also show a progression across grade levels for each of those areas. So you can kind of see what is exceeding the expectation and what would be approaching the expectation. Here's another sample. This one has to do with reading informational text, and you can look at the categories along here. We have craft and structure and point of view, craft and structure and text structure, and then for each grade level, they explain what the standard is, what we expect the students to know and be able to do, along with key competencies under each one. So the reason I'm showing these is to kind of demystify the PA core standards, because if you look at what the standards are under each one, you can see that clearly we want our students to be able to do this, but we know that our instructional practices needed to change a little bit in order to get them to do so. So when we talk about our curriculum in ELA is fully aligned to the PA core standards. And so I think it's important to understand what a curriculum document is. And it is a document or a plan that defines the content to be learned by students and the outcomes of that. It is not a textbook or a program series or anything like that. It is not the state standards, because this also includes the map for how we're going to get there instructionally. So our curriculum, though we say it's fully aligned to the standards, it also defines the key concepts and skills along with the essential vocabulary and the competencies that we want students to do. So it's just like a roadmap that says this is how the students are going to learn that by the end of the year. And our frameworks, our curriculum frameworks, again, they define what the students should know, understand, and be able to do. When we talk about what they know, what concepts do they need to know? What vocabulary do they need to know? Same thing for understanding. What are the essential questions and the big ideas they need to know? And then what do they need to be able to do? What are their key competencies that they need to demonstrate that they have met the standard? And here's a sample of our ELA, one of our ELA curriculum frameworks. You can see it's grade 3. We have the big ideas, the essential questions. These are the concepts the students need to know, the competencies that they need, and then we also define the vocabulary as well. So that being said, what would you see instructionally in a classroom? So when we talk about the curriculum, that is really the what. That's what the students are going to learn. And then we talk about instructional practices, and then we talk about that's how the students are going to learn it. And in North Penn School District, our curriculum is delivered through a balanced literacy model. So students will be exposed to a certain amount of interactive read aloud, shared reading. They'll be experiencing working with words, guided reading groups. They'll be given independent reading time, and they will be taught in a writer's workshop model. And so it would be prudent of me to talk a little bit about each one, so when you go into the classroom you know what you're talking about. So we're going to start with interactive read aloud. In an interactive read aloud, students are learning story enjoyment, literature and appreciation, and the teacher's reading high quality literature aloud to the children every day. Modeling think alouds, modeling what students do strategically as readers. So you'll see a portion of the day where the teacher is actually reading to the students and modeling how they are a strategic reader. The students then move into a shared reading experience. And that is where all the students have the text in front of them, and it's a guided practice where the students are working together on whatever skill or strategy is being taught at that time. It's kind of like the first piece is the teachers doing it, and then the second piece for shared reading is we're all doing it together. Then the students would move into small guided reading groups using text on their level. This is where teachers are able to differentiate the text level according to where the students are. So all the students might be learning about characterization, but when they get into small guided reading groups, though they're all learning about characterization, they're all using a text that they are able to handle and read with some guidance from the teacher. It's also a time where the teacher is able to give constructive feedback to help further the children in their reading skills. And then as far as reading, there's a time where students self-select independent reading books where they're allowed to apply what they've learned in read aloud, in their shared reading experience, in their guided reading groups, and do that on their own in their independent reading, of course with teacher feedback and teacher check-ins. In regards to our word work and writing components, we will have students, and you will be in classrooms when you go to visit, where you see students working on word study, and where they're really working with words and learning the structural analysis of words. Our word study lessons are taught every day, along with the vocabulary as well. This includes, word study includes the spelling, the vocabulary, what in education terms we call morphology, which is like looking at Latin roots and things like that. So it's a very needed skill for students to learn how to read. Additionally, you'll see employed as a writer's workshop model, and our new resource is actually much stronger in the writing component than past resources, in the fact that students will be learning different modalities of writing. As you could see in the standards, they'll be learning how to write informational pieces and narrative pieces and persuasive pieces and opinions and arguments, and they'll be writing every single day in the classroom, and teachers will be teaching them traits of writing that really promote and make them a better writer. And so it's a combination of doing some quick writes, some written responses to literature. The teachers will be taking the kids through the writing process, and sometimes they're going to be asked to do an on-demand writing piece as well. So I think that you will definitely see some changes in the writing instruction this year in North Penn. So that was a basic, quick overview of our ELA curriculum and instruction. And then I also wanted to tell you a little bit about some things that you have at your fingertips. The elementary curriculum guide, excuse me, is an overview of all the different things taught in elementary, not just ELA and not just math. It has all the different strands, and it gives an overview. That's found on North Penn's website under For Parents, and it's under curriculum information. So you'll see the elementary curriculum guide. I'm going to skip Think Central for a second because I want to talk about RAS Kids. RAS Kids is available for our students in grades K through 3. Teachers sign the students up, and they're giving passwords, and there's over 400 level books for students, and there's quizzes that come with it, and the books can be read to students, and the teachers assign those books, and the kids have that access to that at home on iPads or on computers. News ELA, we call it Newsella, is for grades 3 through 6, and it is thousands of informational articles, hot articles that are off the press, and teachers are allowed to choose from 5 different levels that they come with. So it might all be about pollution, but there'll be 5 different text levels that the students can do, and it's a really unique way that allows students to dig deeper into reading closely and thinking critically about what they read, and they also will be assigned a username. Of course, always the classroom teacher and building reading specialists are great resources for you with supporting your students at home. And then we've also added Think Central, which is a portal that parents may use for ELA. I am currently signed on to my daughter's here, and I apologize, some of it's cut off, but it's just this app that I'm using. I want to show you when you log on, you have to pick your school, your state, and the students will put in their username and password, which is actually their school ID, both. So both their username and password is their school ID. If you go into My Library, you'll see what the teacher has assigned for your student in regards to mathematics. There's a mathematics button here and a reading button here. So I'm going to click on the reading one. And what we have placed in here is the Journey student book. So this is the community text that all students have to read. There are Grammar Snap videos for them to look at, and then there's also leveled readers in there as well. So I'll just quickly preview the student book. So you can see Enter Book, and as it sits there and spins and spins and spins. We're going a little slow. There it goes. This is just a piece of it. I know you can only see a piece because of my screenshot, but it has the whole student book in here, and there are also little microphones if you want the book to be read to the student. And you can see everything is in here that you could need, including some critical thinking questions. So if you wanted to sit down with your child and read, there's also critical thinking questions in there as well. And again, there's leveled readers in there. I would contact your teacher to see which level readers your student should be using. And excuse me. As I see I'm running out of time for this video, I hope that gave you a quick 15-minute sneak peek into our ELA curriculum, instruction, and resources that you could use at home. Thank you.